what's it going to take for you to get out of the gap? Only you're going to know these answers because you know your situation. You may want to better the world or help an orphanage or feed the hungry or donate to your church or build a youth center to get kids off the street or bring entrepreneurs and influential people to a safari in Africa. Thank you, Matt Swerek. Who knows, right? You don't know, but you got to take those steps. Like, I didn't know this was a possibility. It became my reality. So you have to start, and I'm going to leave it with you this way. What is it going to take? Good morning. Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, another golden nugget. And today I want to unpack some insights on a book that I've been reading by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. The book is called The Gap and the Gain. And it's really interesting, and the book for me has been really challenging. When you tell a child, don't put your hand on the hot stove, the first thing they're going to do is put their hand on the hot stove. What could you do, right? So the gap and the gain. The gap is if I'm looking forward into the future, where do I want my life to be? Do I want to lose more weight? Do I want to get more acquisitions? Do I want to grow my business? Any goal or any destination that I'm trying to plan out for myself, the tendency is in the gap that I'm going to measure myself between where I am and where I want to be. And if I feel I'm not making progress fast enough, I'm going to get depressed, and it's going to wear down on my self-esteem, and it's going to make it difficult. It's going to make it more challenging. And the thing about the gap is, as I do move forward to my goal, okay, I set new goals. So it's like a dog chasing his tail or a never-ending, unobtainable destination, because it's always moving forward, always moving forward, always moving forward. So you can have millionaires, multimillionaires who are never happy. They could have 5, 10, 15, $20 million. And because they always have that set goal out in front of them that they want to achieve and reach, they never feel any accomplishment because they're always looking at the gap as where do I have to get to? And it causes anxiety and stress and frustration, and stress can easily knock 10 years off your life. So there's the gap, right? The gain is, where have I come from? I'm looking around my beautiful home right now, and I'm not filming this here to make you feel bad. This is where I live, and this is where I am right now in my moment. But where did I come from? I remember the conversations to purchase my first 3-unit building, and that was back in 2001, 23 years ago. And that was a difficult time to figure all that out, and all those moving parts, all of what I didn't know about what I didn't know, and trying to figure all that out. So now if I look back in time, the gain from where I've come over the past 23 years to here, this is incredible, right? It was just on an episode with Matt Swerek talking about the overnight success, the 23 or the 27 or the 30-year overnight success. For that person who's seeing the story and hearing it at its completion, they're thinking, wow, it must be nice that, you do this and you do that and boom, here you are. It's not a light switch. It's a long process, like Michelangelo chipping away at the David. He did all that by hand, hard work, one chisel, one hammer at a time. And anyone who's become successful will tell you their story, and it seems like an overnight success. And again, a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but I just want you to realize wherever you are in your life, that's not your starting point. So think of where your starting point, when you had that intentional moment, okay, I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to have a better life for myself. I'm going to double my income. I'm going to provide health, wellness, and generational wealth for my family. At that moment, when you start and say, okay, this is it, I've had enough there's been enough pain in my life, or I'm motivated because I want to do this stuff. That's your starting point. Give yourself a break. Look back to see how far you've come forward. That gives you a sense of peace. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. It builds up your self-esteem, makes you feel better about yourself, and gives you that mindset that, okay, I've gotten this far, I can take the next step. I'm not talking about 5 miles out ahead. I'm talking about just taking that next step. So, really good example. Yesterday, I was coming out of the gym, and I saw a woman. I see her all the time, but she actually works at the restaurant down here. And we've had this conversation. She says she wants to lose weight, get in better health and all that. She sees me come out of the gym. I'm covered with sweat. And again, my gap in gain is with the gym as well. I mean, I've lost 115 pounds, but I still got another 10, 15 to go. So I'm not going to beat myself up there. But speaking to this woman, she says, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And says, ho, 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 you're setting yourself up for failure, because you have too many things you want to implement all at the same time. Just pick one thing that you can do. One thing. Just one thing that will get you a step closer to that direction. And I just asked her, I said, what's it going to take? I mean, you say you want to do all these things, but what's it going to take for you to take that first step? And it got emotional really fast. She welled up in tears, and I kind of felt horrible. But I just stopped my life for a couple minutes and stayed there with her for about 15, 20 minutes to just talk to her and, coach her and make her feel like this is something obtainable that you can do. So she has diabetes. She's on medications and all this other stuff. And I was borderline there at a time. So I said, what's one thing you can do? When do you wake up in the morning? She says, 8 o'clock to start my day and do my job. Okay. Wake up at 7 o'clock. And I was going to suggest, take a half hour to walk, 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back. And I could see it in her face. And I kept hearing this coming back. Well, if I did that, then I'd have to do this. And then I'd have to do that. And then I'd have to do that. And I said to her, these kind of sound like excuses. So just pick that one thing that you can do. So leaving her, and I'll check back with her. Wake up early and put on your sneakers. That's it. I don't even want you to go for a walk yet. I just want you to get into the habit for a week. Wake up early, get out of bed, and put on your sneakers. She says, well, yeah, I can do that. Great. Now, next week, all I want you to do, we talked about walking her dogs, and then it turned into, well, do I take all 3 dogs? Do I just take the big dog? And then we talked about the big dog. It's like, well, I need a leash for the big dog. I says, look, it's too complicated. Let's make it really simple so you can have success. Get out of bed early, put on your sneakers, and walk 5 minutes away from your house. That's it. Just focus on 5 minutes, and then turn around and come back. You will have just walked 10 minutes. That is great. So let's just start there. And she says, well, I can do that. And that's my point, right? Whatever you're challenging yourself on your gap, what's that one thing you can do? Can you wake up early? Can you send one more email? Can you make one more connection? Can you make one more offer? What can you do, right? That is going to slowly move you forward into your gap. Don't focus on where you need to be. Just take that one step. How can you measure this? Ask yourself, what gain did I accomplish yesterday? And that's it, right? Just one gain. If you want to get deep into this and really get there, try to find 3 gains that you did the previous day. And then just stay present in the moment. What are 3 gains I can do today? And I do this with my team all the time. When we get on a meeting, I'll ask, what are your big 3 that you have to get done today? I don't want you to think about like 2 years down the road, right? Because that's just going to overwhelm you with the miles of journey in between. Where are you today? What's one step you can take? If you can take 1 step, great. Take 2 steps. 2 steps, fantastic. If you can hit 3 steps, you've won the day. That's all. So your gap is what's in front of you. Measure that, and everybody gets into the gap. I get into the gap. Before shooting this video, I was reading the book and getting into the gap. And that's the thing. When somebody says, oh, don't think negatively, boom, the first thing you do is think every negative thought in your head. Or when somebody says, no, don't do this, or no, don't do that, no, don't do this, you automatically go through all these scenarios in the head. And this book has been really challenging for me because every time he's talking about the gap, boom, I go right into the gap. It says, yeah, I get into the gap when I do this, and I get into the gap when I do this, and I get into the gap. And boom, 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 gap, gap, gap. And that's, my head gets saturated with all these things that I shouldn't be thinking about. So, what can you do to turn it around? I just listened to my Darren Daily, and he was talking about weight loss and sugar and ice cream and Jell-O and all that stuff. So, substitution, right? If I have a bad habit or something like that, what's something I can substitute it with, which would be a good habit? That's one thing I can do. And then instead of thinking of taking away, add to your experience. Like instead of saying, oh, I'm going to lose sleep and I'm going to get fatigued because I exercise. No. Think, okay, I'm going to gain more time out of my day and I'm going to gain more health into my life. And each sacrifice, think of it as a gain that, whoa, this is something I couldn't do yesterday that I'm going to do today. And just flip the script on that. So yeah, it's difficult and it's hard, and I'm not done the book yet, so we're just getting into the areas on how to focus on the gain. So I guess in writing the book, he had to get the gap identified and out of the way. You always tell the bad news first, right? And then you start to build up and tell the good news. So he did have one technique, because everybody gets into the gap. Allow yourself 5 minutes in the gap. Okay, this horrible thing happened. I have to deal with this. It's a crisis situation. It's a trauma situation, whatever it might be. Okay, wrap my head around this, emotionally said to myself, and have a plan. Okay, what can I do now to get through this, and what are my next steps? And put yourself back into the game. Take that first step forward into getting to the next step. 3 steps a day, that's a gain. Well, I hope this is helpful. I won't ramble on too much about this. I think you get the general idea. The gap is where you see yourself being, and if you measure yourself there, you'll never get there, because it's always constantly moving ahead of you. As you take 3 steps, your new goal goes out 3 steps. So you're going to set yourself up for, I'm never going to get there, and that's the internal voice you're going to tell yourself. If you look at your gain in the last 2 decades, if you would have told me 2 decades ago I'd be shooting a podcast trying to help other people improve their life, shooting it on Eagle Beach from where I live now, it's like, no way. You're smoking something and it sounds really good, but not me, not today. You don't know. So I took all those steps. I mean, I did not have the vision back 21 years ago that I'd be here and doing this, but now I can look back over the past 21 years, 2 decades, say, wow, there were a lot of steps. I changed a lot of toilets, had a lot of conversation, bought a lot of properties, sold a lot of properties, had a lot of trauma, had a lot of brain damage, more tenants that I could count that have come and gone, still have a great base of tenants. My business has grown exponentially. I could go on and on and on, but it's going to sound like I'm bragging. That's not my point here. I want you to look at yourself and where you've come from. I know scores of people, interview them on the podcasts all the time. They started out with that painful moment in their life where they needed to make a change. So what is it for you? And what's it going to take? You know where you are today. You know where you want to be tomorrow. What's it going to take for you to take that first step? And what's it going to take for the second step and the third step? And what's it going to take for you to get out of the gap? Only you're going to know these answers, because you know your situation. You may want to better the world, or help an orphanage, or feed the hungry, or donate to your church, or build a youth center to get kids off the street, or bring entrepreneurs and influential people to a safari in Africa thanking that work. Who knows, right? You don't know, but you got to take those steps. Like, I didn't know this was a possibility. It became my reality. So you have to start. And I'm going to leave it with you this way. What is it going to take? All right. Thank you, all my real estate peeps. This is Brian Lucier with an attitude of gratitude. Thankful that you're here, and I'm hoping that I can make a difference in your life and add to your experience. Brian Lucier from the Golden Nugget, Why Not Real Estate Podcast, signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.